Brady's pass is intercepted and returned for a touchdown by Logan Ryan, the former Patriot. The Titans take out the defending champions. Watson controls the edge. Watson survives it and then checks down to Jones. Jones inside the 40, inside the 30, inside the 20, to the 10-yard line. Taiwan Jones. Deshaun Watson, magical.
Now Lockett goes in motion, runs the play fake. Now he's going to throw down the middle. Got a man. Metcalf makes the catch diving. He is in for a touchdown. Seahawks. What a play by the rookie DK Metcalf. Simply spectacular.
3rd and goal from the 4. Kirk takes the snap. Looks right. Fade left. End zone. And it is caught. Touchdown! Amazing decision by Kirk Cousins. He saw the all-out blitz. He knew he had Rudolph one-on-one with the corner. Rudy! And just threw the jump ball. What a beautiful throw. Bonjour, San Francisco, and au revoir, New Orleans Saints.
That's how we've won all year, team, right? Hey, you held them to 20 points, man. You gave us a chance at the end. But I got 3 words for you. You like that?
The Isle of Wight or somewhere like that.
There you go. It was a recapping of the action in the NFL over the course of the weekend in the wildcard rounds, both the AFC and the NFC. To join us and to look back upon the weekend's action, delighted to say we're joined by our presenter of The Snap here on offtheball.com, Cian Fahey, to discuss all of that. Good evening, Cian.
Good evening, how are you?
Not too bad. Come here to me. We will start with what for many will be the headline news, and that win for the Titans over the Patriots, 2013 it was last night. And it seems like if we're talking dynasties, we're talking 42-year-old Tom Brady, we're talking Belichick at the Patriots. This, to many, doesn't seem like it was a surprise, is I suppose, the headline grabber of this one.
Yeah, well, Ronan and I talked on the podcast last week, and both of us kind of thought the Titans were going to win this game. And a big reason for that was Tom Brady's decline. And Tom Brady's decline has been a big talking point for the last couple of weeks and towards the end of the regular season. But this dates back to last year. In last year's playoff run, they didn't move through the playoffs last year because of Tom Brady. They moved through the playoffs because of a great defense and because Sony Michel kept running the ball all the time. And then this year, they started really, really well over the first half of the season, but they were playing really bad teams. And once they started coming up against decent teams, they couldn't really get wins and they couldn't really move the ball. And now it's looking like Brady might actually leave. And if he does leave, I can't really see who's going to be happy picking him up. Someone will, obviously, because he's so famous. People over here know who he is, and that's how good he is and how good he's been. But at this stage, his arm is declined. He can't throw the ball outside the numbers anymore. He can't move within the pocket anymore. So unless he has this amazing supporting cast, he's not particularly good.
You could see why any kind of franchise, I guess, who wants to make a name for themselves and want to be seen to be making progress would pick up somebody like Tom Brady. But how likely is it that he actually will leave?
Well, this is the interesting thing, because normally Brady takes a contract every year and they figure it out every year in the offseason, and there's no talk about it. Brady's going to sort this out. Brady's going to sort this out. He's going to take a little bit of a pay cut, take a little bit of money off the top and help the team out. But the team also hasn't spent all of its cap space lately, so that might be kind of annoying him a little bit. And this offseason so far, over this season rather, not the offseason, he hasn't really committed to that idea like he has in the past. And when they've been asked about it, there's been kind of a reluctance to commit to the moving forward together. There's been leaks coming out that Brady might want to move to Miami, he might want to move his house, he's changing where he lives, and his kids are old enough and all this kind of stuff. And that talk might be meaningless. It might be just for negotiations with the Patriots, and he wants his full deal, or he wants to actually leave and finish his career somewhere else. It's something that's hard to read into because there's a lot of talk when it comes to the NFL, but normally there is no talk with him. So that's why it's something we're talking about right now, besides the loss. Because the loss in itself wasn't really unexpected, so we can't really call it a shock and something that's turning the narrative on him. The narrative was there already.
Yeah, just as regards Brady, it can't be a shock that a 42-year-old quarterback, whether his name is Tom Brady or not, might be moving on, might be retiring, whatever it might be. Is there a succession plan in place?
The shock is that he has lasted as long as he has. A couple of years ago, they had their succession plan in Jimmy Garoppolo, who they picked in the second round of the draft. But Brady played so well for so long that Garoppolo reached a point where he had to play or they had to move on. And they moved him on. And now he's with the San Francisco 49ers, who are the number one seed in the NFC and who look like they're probably going to go to the Super Bowl. Not necessarily because of how good Garoppolo has been, because he's coming off an ACL tear the previous year. He hasn't been great. He's been good enough. But overall, it feels like they don't have anything. They have Jarrett Stidham, who they drafted last year. They really liked him in the preseason, played really well, but they brought him in for one drive during the regular season when they were blowing out the Jets. He threw an awful interception. They immediately took him back out. So that doesn't exactly inspire confidence. They also brought in veteran backups too. So they don't have a clear succession plan, but when you've got Bill Belichick, you've got the greatest coach in the history of this sport, arguably the greatest coach in any sport. He's going to have an idea. There's going to be veteran quarterbacks they can go out and get. Like if you look at the Titans straight away as an example, Marcus Mariota entered the season as their starting quarterback. They replaced him with Ryan Tannehill, who they got from the Miami Dolphins for nothing. He actually had to take a pay cut. Now he is their star quarterback. He's a playoff quarterback. So you can find guys. You don't have to have the first overall pick in the draft, or you don't have to have an awful season to come back and get a good season.
On your article on offtheball.com breaking down all of the wildcard weekend, you mentioned in relation to the Bills and Houston that it was an awful game of football and it was a great game of football. Tell us how in both instances.
It was an absolutely awfully played game of football, but it was full of the most ridiculous drama you'll ever come across. In the last 3 minutes, there was about 2.5 minutes left in the game, and I put on Twitter as game over, the Bills have lost here because they took 2 sacks and the ball went back to the Texans. And somehow 10 minutes later, the Bills had the ball again and were running down the middle of the field, and their quarterback was throwing the ball up in the air for no reason at all, threw it to nobody, and they still got it back and still had a chance to win at the end. But it was like that game was by far the best game I've watched in a long, long time, but it's nowhere near one of the best played games I've watched in a long, long time. Yeah. It was a clash between a Texans team that was overwhelmed in every aspect of the game, every position on the field, except for quarterback. It was an awful team with a great quarterback against a great team with an awful quarterback. And that's how important the quarterback can be at times. Deshaun Watson, phenomenal Texans quarterback. Josh Allen, major, major problem for the Bills in the game.
Yeah, we mentioned quarterbacks and how much influence they can hold. We saw what happened with Carson Wentz going out from Philadelphia so early on in their playoff with the Seahawks. Seattle going on to win that. Are Seattle as strong as they have been in previous years, or was this something of an upset?
No, but Seattle's another interesting team because you look at the development curve of that team. Everyone will remember Richard Sherman going crazy on the sideline against Michael Crabtree back in the day, and they had that outstanding defense with Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Brandon Browner, all the superstars, and Russell Wilson in his prime, and Doug Baldwin, who's since retired. They kind of came through that. They got the most out of that team, and then they had to hit the reset button. But they've hit the reset button without having a losing season. Pete Carroll has kept this team alive and kept this team afloat. They were on track to be maybe the third or fourth best team in the NFC, but then they lost all of their running backs and they lost their left tackle, Dwayne Brown. Those are really important for Seattle because Seattle really want to run the ball. Chris Carson, one of the best running backs in the league, in my opinion. His backup, CJ Prosise, was very valuable. Rashad Penny as well was very valuable in the passing game. All three of those guys are gone, which means we get Marshawn Lynch back, but it doesn't necessarily make the Seahawks better. Marshawn Lynch is one of the most fun players in the league, one of the best guys to watch, but he's 34, 35 maybe at this stage. He's not a great player anymore.
There's nothing wrong being in your mid-30s, Cian, let me tell you that much. Very finally, the Saints beaten by the Vikings. This one, as I guess, is a surprise to many, 26-20.
Major shock, major shock. And it all comes down to Drew Brees again Drew Brees hasn't shown up in playoff games over the last couple of years. This year, it didn't look like that was going to happen because he had played really well over the final couple of weeks of the season. Brees is another quarterback like Phillip Rivers and like Tom Brady, where he's 40 years of age. So at the end of the year, after throwing the ball 600 times, your arm starts to wear down. In this game, he threw an awful interception in the second quarter, an inexplicable interception that set the Vikings up for an important score. And then he had a fumble when the Saints were driving to win the game at a critical moment too. That was another poor play by him. So the Vikings were able to win by relying on Dalvin Cook and having a great performance from their defensive line. Got loads of pressure on Brees, and it came down to the last play. Again, like the Bills-Texans game, really dramatic and very, very funny if you're into Schadenfreude a little bit, because the Saints season last year ended on a controversial missed pass interference penalty, so they changed the rules so they could review pass interference, a little bit like VAR in soccer. Everyone hates it, but we keep adding to it for some reason. And they changed the rule this year, and then on the final play, there was an offensive pass interference that the Vikings benefited from that the replay didn't change for them. So they feel like they've gotten screwed 2 years in a row, and the rest of us are kind of sat back laughing because they've forced us to hear about all these replays and go through all these replays all season long.
Cian Fahey, thanks so much for that. You can catch Cian's breakdown of the entire weekend over on offtheball.com. Listen out for the snap as well on all of our channels. We'll be back with the football show with the second half underway at the Emirates next.
Join that conversation. Text us on 53106. Texts cost 30 cents. You're to do